Welcome to section 20.1, part 3. This is the 200th session of the CISSP exam prep series. This part carries the build forward from writing code through testing, maintenance, and the major lifecycle models. In this session, we'll walk the middle and later stretches of development and the models that shape them. We'll answer several questions. What happens once coding begins, and how is it reviewed? How do you test a system before it goes live? Why does change management never really end? And what do the classic lifecycle models, from Waterfall to Agile at enterprise scale, actually give you? Why does this matter beyond the exam? Because the model your teams follow decides how quickly flaws surface and how safely fixes ship. Picture a fintech startup racing to launch a payments feature. If they skip code reviews and structured testing, a single mishandled edge case can move real money the wrong way. Understanding these phases and models lets you insist that security rides along at every stage instead of getting left at the platform. What happens once coding begins, and how is it reviewed? Once stakeholders bless the design, developers start writing code that matches the agreed plan and applies secure coding principles. Because fresh code always hides mistakes, project managers schedule code review walkthroughs at coding milestones. In these technical sessions, developers sit down with a specific module and step through it line by line, hunting for logic errors and security flaws. Only development staff usually attend, and the goal is to confirm each team's code behaves as specified. Think of it as proofreading a manuscript chapter by chapter before it ever reaches the printer. How do you test a system before it goes live? Testing starts inside the team, with developers hunting obvious errors, then widens as developers and real users run the system against scripted scenarios covering both ordinary and unusual activity. When you are updating an existing system, regression testing confirms the new code behaves like the old, except for the changes you intended. Cover both functional testing, which proves the software works, and security testing, which proves no serious weaknesses slip through. When everyone is satisfied, users perform acceptance testing, formally agreeing the software meets their needs and is ready for production. Keep the written test plan and results as permanent records. Think of it as a test drive on a closed course before the car is ever sold. Why does change management never really end? Because the moment a system goes live, its maintenance begins and never stops. Operational needs, data volumes, storage, and the surrounding environment all keep shifting. So you need a skilled support team ready for both routine and surprise upkeep. Every change to the code must flow through a formal change management process rather than happening ad hoc, so nothing slips in unreviewed. Think of it like maintaining a bridge. It carries traffic for decades, but only because crews inspect and repair it on a disciplined schedule. What do lifecycle models actually give you? They bring engineering discipline to what can otherwise be chaotic. Improvised coding. Having a management model in place tends to produce better products. But a poor or ill-fitting model can steer a project away from real business needs, so verify that the model suits your environment and win management approval up front. Choosing the model is usually the development team's job, and your role as a security professional is to make sure security principles are woven into whatever model they pick. Think of it as choosing a construction method. The right one for a house differs from the right one for a skyscraper, but every method needs safety built in. How does the waterfall model work? Waterfall views development as a series of sequential stages, each completed before the next begins, flowing steadily downward like water over a ledge. The purely linear original proved too rigid, so the iterative version added feedback loops that let a project step back to the previous phase to fix defects discovered later. A further refinement, the modified waterfall, added verification and validation at each phase, where verification checks the product against its specifications, and validation checks how well it meets real-world needs. Its main weakness is that it lets you step back only one phase, so a fault found much later is hard to unwind. Think of it as an assembly line that can nudge a part back one station, but no further. How does the spiral model improve on that? The spiral model wraps several passes of a waterfall-style process into repeated loops, which is why it is called a model of models. Each loop produces a new prototype, and developers keep circling through planning, building, and evaluating incrementally maturing the system while resolving risks each time around. This solves Waterfall's big limitation, because you can return to the planning stages whenever changing technology or customer needs demand it. Where Waterfall aims for one large finished delivery, Spiral iterates through steadily more complete prototypes with tighter quality control. Think of it as sculpting through repeated rough drafts, each one closer to the final form. What makes the Agile approach different, and how does Scrum apply it? Agile grew from a reaction against rigid, heavyweight models, valuing individuals and interactions, working software, customer collaboration, and responding to change. It is a philosophy, not a single method, and several methodologies put it into practice, with Scrum the most popular. Scrum runs on short daily meetings, also called scrums, where the team reviews progress, plans the next day, and clears obstacles, guided by a Scrum Master who keeps things moving. Work happens in sprints, tight windows usually of 1 to 4 weeks, each ending in a functioning, releasable product that grows richer sprint by sprint. Think of it as building a working car one drivable version at a time, rather than unveiling the finished vehicle only at the very end. What is an integrated product team? The idea of gathering all the right stakeholders around one product goal is older than Agile itself. A defense organization introduced integrated product teams as multifunctional groups sharing a single aim, whether delivering a product or shaping a process or policy. Their purpose was to foster parallel rather than sequential decisions, so that every angle of the product, process, or policy gets considered throughout development instead of in isolation. Think of it as seating design, security, and operations at the same table from day one, rather than passing a document down a hallway. How does the scaled Agile framework stretch Agile to the enterprise? Large organizations struggle to run Agile across many teams at once, and the scaled Agile framework offers a structured way to coordinate hundreds or even thousands of practitioners. At its heart, it gives everyone a shared picture of how work flows from team-level activity up to strategic goals. It is organized into 4 configuration levels. Essential brings in core Agile practices, with teams grouped into release trains that deliver larger increments of value together. Large Solution adds coordination for enormous systems that need multiple trains. Portfolio translates strategy into funded, actionable work under lean management principles. And Full combines all of these for the biggest, most integrated efforts. It ties every task, from broad themes down to individual stories, back to a larger objective. Think of it as scaling a single kitchen's rhythm up to run an entire restaurant chain in sync. So let's bring it together. Coding follows an approved design and gets checked through line-by-line walkthroughs. Then testing moves from developers to users, adds regression checks, and ends in formal acceptance. Change management runs for the life of the system, always through a formal process. Lifecycle models bring discipline. From sequential waterfall, to iterative spiral prototypes, to flexible, agile, and its Scrum practice, up to the scaled Agile framework for enterprise scale. With integrated product teams as an early collaborative ancestor, master these, and you can insist security travels through every phase and every model. The MCQs covering all the topics and concepts from this session are available on rucloud.com. Practice the chapter-specific MCQs before moving on to the next session. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or feedback, post a comment below or email us. I will see you in the next session.